Uh, we have Thomas and Irving and myself and Dexter and Mark. Uh, anyway, today's topics, just want to give a little preface on for as a CYA. Uh, Due to the nature of a couple of the topics, none of what we're saying, any of us are saying here today, is any legal advice or recommendation. And if you have any questions about reasonable force and excessive force, you need to consult an attorney in your state
or country.
or country.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's just something to say up front so that no one says we said anything inappropriate, I guess,
Yeah.
but as tactfully as possible. Anyway, our first topic is how far do you go on the street in terms of protecting yourself? And Thomas, before we came on the air, brought up the article he had from decades ago. And you want to just mention it again without me mentioning any names or anything like that. So give us kind of a heads up
Uh,
to.
sure. There was an article, and it was quite some time ago. Uh, a woman who was being stalked, and she already had one physical encounter with her stalker, and she left place of business at night. In the back alley, he attacked her again, and she defended herself, but then was taken to court for excessive force because, as the judge said, or the prosecutor, I forget which one of them said, he had stopped attacking her, but she continued to kick him, and she went to prison for that.
Okay, so
So, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so it leads right into our topic, which is um, using reasonable force and using excessive force.
Mm.
And I know this varies from state to state, and this does not even include the concept of stand your ground, which some states have. Um, so I guess the question is, where where do you draw the line, or can a line be drawn, and to make difference between reasonable force and excessive force? And I realize you're giving your opinions, and none of this is legal advice or legally binding on anyone.
Thomas, on
Yeah.
that article you just talked about,
Yes,
what,
sir.
what state was that in?
I'm trying to remember that. It was Midwest. It might have been Iowa. I can't remember. I've been looking for the actual article, so I'm not guessing at the facts. If I find it, I will pass it on.
All right, just curious. Here in Alabama, I don't think she would have gone to jail. I don't
I
even
was,
think they would have arrested her.
yeah, and that's kind of the way I feel about what happens here in Northern Virginia and Maryland. That's why this article had stood out for me, and I presented it to my students as a cautionary tale. Don't make assumptions that you know what reasonable force is. Uh, Not everybody's going to agree with you.
Right.
I don't know that situation and how much force she used in the end, but I could see if you have a person down and you just continually kicking and kicking and kicking, I think that would be too much.
And
And
that was
I
the
guess
description of what she was doing, yes.
yeah, so then
Unfortunately, we weren't there because,
Right.
yeah,
from a woman's point of view, she's just trying to make sure he doesn't get back up to attack her again.
Right.
You
yeah.
know,
But
so
I don't know. I guess there's a point where she went too far and they decided that she went too far. I don't know. I think that might be the same if it happened up here in Canada. If you continually, if you're safe and you got the person on the ground and you're kicking him on the ground over and over again, I don't know legally, but I think there would be a point where they'd be like, yeah, that's excessive.
But as Mark said, we weren't there, and
Right. I don't
her
know this.
state,
Yeah, exactly. I don't
right,
know.
her state of mind
So,
is that if she's
I mean,
going to
if she was
identify,
kicking him for like half an hour to an hour later
yeah.
and just kept kicking him, I mean, that, I guess it all depends on what she did. I don't know the whole thing.
And how
Yeah.
much she believes that he wasn't going to get up and attack her again.
Right.
That's Mark's point.
She doesn't know. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard call.
Yeah. I know in California, it's uh, reasonable force is you can do what is necessary to protect yourself from further injury and remove yourself from the situation.
Hmm.
Um, and those are both very vague terms.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is.
And it I've had students that have been in street situations, and they've followed. I mean, they've followed that lack of a better phrase guideline.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, they've seen that their attacker is injured and can't do anything, and so they leave or stop. Uh, and I've never had a student who has gotten in trouble for whatever they did, even though in one case involved a couple cases involved fractures, uh, uh, concussion. One incident, the attacker ultimately suffered some brain damage from the concussion when he hit the ground.
Hmm.
Stuff happens, but it's it's so far always fallen within the definition of reasonable force. Um, does any of this change? I mean, if you had one attacker versus multiple attackers,
Hmm.
is there any change or anything you might do differently? Or I mean, it's hard to say because I don't think any of us have been in that situation. Um, uh, and later on, we get into escalation and de-escalation that we might go back to that.
Hmm.
But do you give your students any advice in terms of what to do in terms of if they have multiple attackers or I know Seki gave some advice. Which,
Well, based on what Seki taught me as well as he taught you, and my experiences with other forms of martial arts that I've added into what Seki taught, is if you have multiple attackers, you want to make the first one that engages you, you want to make him hurt so much that his partners think twice about attacking.
Yeah, I've been taught that too. Seems.
I mean, yeah. Uh, and that may either include doing sufficient physical damage to the person and you're back up in a ready position waiting, or it
Hmm.
may be using some type of control hold or manipulation to create enough pain so that you can verbally say, this is going to get a lot worse for your friends unless you back off. Uh, I've
Yeah.
used the second one once, uh, decades ago, but has your instructor given, or you were all students at one time or another, and some of you are sensei now. Do you give any particular advice, or have your sensei given any particular advice to you as a student, or in dealing with multiple attackers?
I got the same advice that you got from Seki because I got it from you.
So I'm responsible now, huh?
That's right.
I basically get out of the situation if you can. Same advice. Also take out if you can hurt the biggest, meanest person or the one that gets closest to you
Well,
first,
I
and
guess
then
the question is it, are we just talking about a verbal confrontation, or
oh
has a physical attack actually begun?
yeah, that's different. Well, if it's begun, then you don't have a lot of, I don't know, multiple attackers. You don't have a good chance against multiple attackers. Um, yeah, I need to prevent it from happening,
If
or
you're
put one in
referring,
front of the other, or have some way of making the one person in front of the other, like moving so the one person is, what the other person can't get at you.
You know, if you watch a lot of these videos that are readily available now, which we didn't have in the 60s, it seems like 95% of the attackers are completely untrained and are vulnerable to easy defenses that we've been trained in. And so if you eliminate the very first attack quickly and efficiently and use verbal jujitsu on the others, hopefully I mean, I've never really had to experience that, but it would seem to me that the average untrained fighter doesn't want to get injured. And if they see their buddy go down almost instantly, they don't
Mhm.
want to engage.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the mindset that if you can do enough damage or create enough pain to the first person, that the others may have some second thoughts about the risk.
Yeah. It could even be just smacking him in the face and the attacker has a bloody nose. He's not injured badly, but everyone else sees the blood and they say, oh, I don't want to get involved in this. So maybe they leave.
Right. Um, the years ago when I was in high school, I mean, I didn't have multiple attackers, but I had this group of guys that were always trying to fight with me. And so one day they caught me after school and they wanted me to fight their leader, so to speak. And I didn't want to fight him. And I actually hit him with just one punch and he went right down. And
Yeah.
that was the end of the fight. And it was
Hmm.
also the end of them harassing me. They didn't want to have anything to do with me at all. But
Yeah.
none of the others were engaging me. It was just a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And this is the, I guess, issue here is a group attacking you will, I think, largely try to attack, get what they want out of intimidation.
Hmm.
And when they see there is, and this is probably going to come up in the escalation, de-escalation issue again, if they see that intimidation doesn't work,
Hmm.
that's their only, how do you say, that's their only option, and they don't have it anymore.
Hmm.
And once you create doubt, I don't know, who is it? Who did the Art of War? I can't think of his name.
Sun Tzu.
Sun
Yeah.
Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
I'm still.
If you take away your opponent's will to fight, they've lost already.
Yeah.
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 I'd like to mention something. One of my instructors was in San Francisco during Fleet Week, and their explorer troop or seas they scattered and they were all headed home. And then there was a group of guys that were kind of unsavory looking that was kind of stalking him. What he did was that he pulled out his cell phone and pretended to dial. And he said, "Yes, officer, I think there's a group of them and they're at whatever corner they were
That's,
at."
that's a good idea.
And he said it loud enough for them to hear, and the guys just kind of dispersed. And then that was Doug that was doing it. And he's told us about different incidents in his life that once his car broke down in Richmond, and he was a little bit afraid of going to get help, but he told his family to stay in the car, and he walked down the street, but he walked in the middle of the street instead of by the buildings and stuff, just so that he would have a chance to see anybody that would try to accost him. Which he's taking defensive tactics before it happens.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I've only had one-on-ones. I've never had multiple gang attacks, but back in the 5th grade, when I lived next door to this warlord in Stockton, he would not let me join the gang, but he said, you could come play with us in the park. And so I did a couple of times, and this guy playing, we're fighting. This guy kicked me, and I yelled at him.
Oh, frozen.
Said, hey, that's not fair. And that's why we have the pipes and the chains and the broken glass, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't have sword weapons and stuff. We made our own weapons.
Could you repeat? You froze for a moment, and I think we missed a sentence.
Back when I was in the 5th grade, and I got kicked by one of the warlord buddies, and I said it wasn't fair, and he said, there's nothing fair on the streets. There's no rule. And when I teach self-defense, and I teach mostly to elderly women, and I tell them the same thing, there's no rules, even though there is the case law in California that says you can't use you can only use as much force as necessary. I said, you know something? If you're a 98-pound woman, you're only 5 foot tall, and if you guys gouge a guy's eyes out, I don't think you're going to get prosecuted by civil law or the statute laws. But you're protecting yourself. And somebody said before, it's kind of hard when you get in a fight. You got to start recording all these things that's happening in your mind. And one of the big things is the guy would reiterate what the cops are taught is, I was in fear of my life.
Yeah.
So, and if you're in fear of your life, like when I look at Ned, he scares the shit out of me. I'm fearful all the time. Ned and I work.
Yeah, but you know what my Achilles heel is, right?
Yes.
And you scare the shit out of me.
Yeah. But I think that's the basic thing is, that lady that got arrested and thrown in jail makes me wonder what kind of witnesses did that guy have? Was, to be able to prosecute her and get her
Or maybe
thrown in
not
jail.
not a very good lawyer.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
If I can interject here for a moment, I know that I brought this up probably in a Zoom meeting we had a long time ago. Well, because you're talking about Irving, you're talking about size and height and those factors that go into whether what you do is reasonable or not. I'd really recommend this book.
Okay, good.
If I can get it to show up here. It's
Defensive tactics.
Defensive tactics with a flashlight. Now, it's not for flashlight.
nice.
It's in the back of the book. There are a lot of charts, etc., dealing with height, weight, etc., differences, and all of these have been used in courts of law to support a person's self-defense responses. So that's why I really recommend this book, because you've got an easy resource here, so that you've got something of substance that says, this is what I'm going on, and I also believe it cites the court cases that it's been used in. So I won't swear by that, but that makes it valuable to you if you ever get into that quote unquote legal situation. And again, we're not giving any legal advice.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't. Could you repeat the name of the book again?
It's called Defensive Tactics,
Defensive
Flashlights,
Tactics.
and the author is John G. Peters Jr. John
Defensive Tactics.
G. Peters Jr.
Oh, G. Peters Jr. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Wish this camera was better.
I'll have a look for that. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It's
And
probably available on Amazon.
let's see, copyright 1982.
Oh, well, maybe it's on Amazon. It might be.
Yeah.
George, would you check the
Oh,
chat?
there.
and make sure I spelled the author's
Oh,
name?
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So
Now, talking about flashlights, here in Alabama, they sell flashlights that also have stun guns on them.
Oh,
Or so that if someone were to come near you, you can just push the button, and not only does it flash intense bright light, but it will also shock the hell out of them.
well, and another thing, and I know we're getting sidetracked here when you're dealing with flashlights. I mean, I have one. I don't know whether this little handheld sucker is one of them, but I've got a couple that put out flashes of it's 20,000 lumens. Okay.
Yeah.
And some people have a concern, well, it's going to blind them. And it's not. I mean, I did some research on it online as, what does the intensity have to be? And it may blind them for a second or two. But most of you know that in a street situation, a second or two is a long time.
Yeah.
And you can cause a lot of damage in 1 or 2 seconds if you know what you're doing, including running away. And if you could do that, and the comparison is sunlight, and
Yeah.
sunlight is somewhere around, I think, 1 or 200 lumens or something, 1 or 200,000, excuse me, 1 or 200,000 lumens or something like that. And that can do some damage. And it can cause permanent blindness, but most flashlights, even the high intensity ones, the most they're going to do is cause some temporary blindness. Maybe it could last, several seconds, but that's until your eyes readjust to the light, and that's what you're going for. Plus the
It's a
flash.
perfect.
Plus the flash, some people can be very sensitive to it, and it can cause them to go into what do you call it? I can't think.
Epileptic.
What?
Epileptic seizure. Epileptic seizure.
Cause an epileptic seizure.
I don't know if you can see it, but I got a strobe on my one here.
Yeah,
There's a feature for a strobe. Like a strobe.
yeah, and that can be disorienting as well.
Yeah.
I carry a laser light, and people are afraid of laser lights. They think it's going to blind them. So
I actually,
it's a metal pen. The ink ran out years ago, but it's really good for sticking into the ears or up the nose.
that's
I know we're a little
too.
off. I guess this is a bit off topic, but not really. But do you use these down there in the States?
Oh
The
yeah,
Kubotan, the-
yeah.
Hoshinobu,
yeah.
it's
Keychain,
Kubotan,
yeah.
Kubotan,
Actually, I have a wooden one that goes through the TSA. I've seen.
Yeah.
I've been
point,
told
yeah.
that TSA will take those away, the metal ones away from you.
Yeah, I never. If I fly, I just take it off. Yeah, it just causes problems. Yeah.
In California, I think just having it on you by itself is felony possession.
Yeah.
If you have a key
But
on
you put it on the key. That's right.
now it's a keychain.
That's what same here. Yeah, same here. Because it could be considered a concealed weapon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
And actually, we were taught to use the keys as well to, you can rake the eyes
Right.
if you had to.
yeah.
Quite useful.
With the what do you call it? The laser light. I've had that happen once too when I was covering another teacher's classroom.
Mm.
And For lack of a better phrase, that kid really got the short end of the stick. I mean, I sent another kid out to get security. The principal shows up, campus police shows up armed,
Yeah.
2 security aides showed up. I knew about where in the room that laser light had come from anyway, and we narrowed it down to 2 or 3 kids, and one kid coughed up the evidence. And he was suspended, and principal said, would you like to go see, do you want to go to emergency, get your eyes checked? I said, yes. Because I didn't know, what the intensity was or what it could do, but you don't mess around with your eyesight. So in any case, the kid was not arrested because they were waiting for the outcome of the medical exam and whether I would press charges. And I said, the next day, the father came in with his son, very apologetic. And the kid was very sincere too. Kids do a lot of stupid stuff. And if you were a kid, you probably, we've all done really stupid stuff.
Well, yeah.
And I didn't, there was no injury, there's no damage. And so I just said, this is a worthwhile experience that the kid has had. I think it was a 10th or 11th grader. I said, hopefully it'll make an impression upon him, and let's let it go at that. Father was extremely grateful, probably more so than his kid. But, I was, I didn't think there'd be anything to gain at that point because there was no damage. And I felt the kid had learned his lesson, and that's anyway. We've gotten sufficiently off topic here, but that's okay. It happens.
I have a quick story, and it's about a laser pointer and stupid things that people do. I'll just be really quick. Me and my friends, a long time ago, I was living in England with some friends in an apartment, and we were right across from the train station. So we had laser pointer, and we pointed it on a gentleman standing on the train deck. He saw it, he panicked and ran away. And then so we stopped, and then next thing we see all the police running and swarming it was really stupid of us. Nothing happened, but they thought, it's like someone was trying to shoot someone. It was outside of London, and some man in a suit, he figured rightfully that someone was trying to target him, and it was a huge panic with the police. Anyways, so yes, we do stupid things.
Yeah, it's just.
No one got hurt, but it was like,
I
you
think
live and you learn.
it's normal for a lot of kids to do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Some of us still do stupid stuff as adults, so. Anyhow, let's move on here. Can you, when going back to reasonable or excessive force, can you, if you're in the process of actually defending yourself, can you make that decision as to whether you've used enough force or reasonable force, or whether your force is becoming excessive? Do you have, does a person have that capability? Or do you just respond based on Mushin, your automatic reactions, or?
That's a tough question.
I can't answer it because I haven't been in it since I've been trained.
I think it depends entirely on the situation and your level of training. Now, if you're talking about us that have trained for decades, things are somewhat automatic in your responses to specific attacks. But if you talk about a student that's been in the class for 6 months, they don't have control of their technique yet, so to speak. And so I mean, obviously every situation is different, but it's going to vary really based on your experience level.
Mhm.
I think it would also vary on the type of person that you're dealing with. Looking at things online, like on YouTube, you see somebody with somebody being aggressive just gets slapped, and that would be enough to back them off. Whereas you see people that are engaged in an altercation being hit multiple times and just keep going.
Oh, I've seen that.
Mhm.
I have seen yeah, unbelievable.
Mhm. Yeah, I've
Um,
heard of somebody getting their jaw broken and he just kept on fighting.
uh,
So what's excessive force and what's not enough force?
well, I'll tell you a quick story. Back when me and my friends were out at a bar in Toronto, and after the bar, one of my friends got into an altercation with someone else, and so it became a fist fight. And it was like, okay, whatever, no big deal. Let them fight it out. We were, you know, young, and let them do it. And punches were happening, and then the one guy reached in his coat, pulled out a beer bottle, and just smashing, smashing, smashing. And my friend at the time he had a bit to drink, and he just kept coming forward at the guy, didn't stop. And
Mhm.
finally, we had to pull him apart. But he took so many blows to his face, didn't stop him.
Yeah,
It was very surprising to see.
there's
Surprising.
there are a number of factors here that you guys have brought up. Mark brought up the word control, and one of the things that a more experienced martial artist may have is they may be able to sense when they are in control of the situation, and that is what allows them to maybe back off. And
I
yes,
am
you,
listening
you
to
may
my
be.
phone.
Pardon? Who said something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, hey George, can you hear me? It's Ken up here
Yeah.
in Vancouver.
Okay, well, we don't have any video, but we have audio.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, I've been trying to log on to my computer for the last 35 minutes, but it is failing. But I am listening here. I'm on my phone. I don't have full functionality here on my phone, but I have been following along for the last half an hour. So it's Ken. I am here. Yes.
Yeah. So it's for experienced martial artists, it may be that they had, you know, because they have a better sense of what they're doing. Maybe they do, whether it's more automatic. They're not trying to do whatever technique they're doing. It's just happening automatically that their brain can say, okay, I'm in somewhat control of this situation. Maybe I can back off a bit, or maybe I can use some verbal commands, or
Mhm.
some non-physical elements come into play that ultimately you hope will give you more control of the situation. The other
Mhm.
factor that Dexter brought up is that if a person is under the influence
Yeah.
of
Or
drugs,
alcohol.
alcohol,
Yeah.
they may not feel the pain, or the person's adrenaline level may be, because when you get into a very stressful situation, and most of us that have this happen, whether it's a fight or anything else, you'll get if it's an extremely stressful situation, your body will release adrenaline, and
Mhm.
you will get a kind of a salty, sweet taste on your tongue, and that's
Mhm.
the adrenaline flowing in your system, and your ability to control that adrenaline flow is what's going to determine whether you're in control of what you are doing.
Mhm.
And uh, a person may be so upset, and they're just, like Dexter, just continue hitting and hitting and hitting. They may not have control of themselves. They're just
Right.
they're just doing primary. I don't know what the term is. Primary responses, uh, because they believe they are being physically attacked and their life is in danger.
Yeah.
And that's not an excuse, but
Yeah.
that may be what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Well, I remember that, and it was astounding that the damage that both of them took.
Yeah,
and where eventually we had to stop it, but it was like, it was unbelievable.
yeah,
You know, and he the next day he had to have stitches. Like it was just a real mess, you know, like, you know.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's I mean, I've seen it happen, and even with kids, they go totally bonkers. Uh,
Mhm.
and you do have to, at the junior high I was at, if I saw the two kids were reasonably equally matched before they came to blows, I'd let them get about one or two hits in each before I broke it up. That way, each of them can save, they both can save face.
Yeah.
And the first couple hits aren't going to do that much damage, and they never did. But I mean, I never got in trouble for that, but for allowing that to happen. But an uncontrolled situation never works well for either party.
Going back to my earlier comment about 95% of the world is not properly trained, it's probably higher than that. And so most punches are not, they don't find their marks. There's not power behind it. And so they don't have the same effect level as a properly placed punch.
Mm.
In the one
Well,
time that I talked earlier about where I knocked this guy out with one punch, I I felt, it was a perfectly placed punch, and he went right down. And I think that most of the people, not everybody. I mean, if you're drunk or on some type of drug, you don't realize that you've gotten knocked out. Your body just keeps on going like a chicken
Mhm.
with its head cut off. But I think if you look at the YouTube fights and some of these other fights, most of those punches are just wild and don't hit vital parts that are going to put you down quickly. And so that's really the issue, is that the punches, or like the swinging of the bottles, they're not hitting vital
Well,
areas.
it's true that you say that, but I remember the incident that I'm talking about. It went to court, and we all had to go as witnesses, me and my friends, right? And my buddy that was, uh, I guess because there was a weapon involved, they had to go to court over the stuff. The guy felt he was being attacked. It's long story. Um, my buddy was in the militia, which is like the army, basically
Right.
reserves. And the guy we found out in court was an amateur boxer. So he was hitting him good. And because my friend he was a tough son of a bitch. But because I guess alcohol, he wasn't feeling it. So yeah, it was quite a sight.
Okay, let's uh in training, we've got to take a step back to training here, because
Mhm.
we teach all sorts of defensive martial arts techniques to our students. And do you teach, or do your students understand? I know with jujitsu, the way Seki taught it, unless you're doing a pressure point or to create pain to control a person, every technique will ultimately cause a debilitating injury, whether it be a sprain or concussion or fracture or dislocation, or um, is there any way um, is there any way you can, or what do you do to help your students develop this awareness? Because I found from my students' experience is what upsets them after a street situation is the fact that they did injure another person. And do you do anything to help your students develop an awareness of yes, this is what this technique is designed to do. This is what will ultimately happen. Therefore, you should use caution in using whatever techniques you're using or defending yourself, or how do you deal with this problem? Because you don't want your student, if they're attacked, they're the victim. And you don't want them to feel worse about being a victim by the fact that they successfully defended themselves, and unfortunately the other person got injured in the process.
Right. So you and I both remember when Seki would teach us, we basically were going almost at full speed. We were trained, or at least I remember being trained like we were in Japan. And he
Yes.
treated us as if we were just Japanese students learning, and you needed to learn it as if it's going to really happen. Now, you can't teach that in modern America, but that's the way you and I were trained. At least I remember it that way.
Yes.
And so, as I when I was first teaching back in the early 70s and late 70s, I taught very much like Seki because we had American students that wanted to learn that way. But nowadays, I don't teach that at all. I mean, obviously, I teach technique and procedure, but the level of contact is way lower than what I was trained.
Right. And I think what Mark has included as brown belts, we were expected to be wearing forearm padding on the backs of our hands, shin guards. And they were the cotton or foam ones, not the rubberized ones that exist today, because we were expected to block and hit that hard. And if you didn't wear padding, you just suffered the consequences, because and the nice thing about the padding, was particularly the forearm padding, was you could turn it around so that when you hit the other you'd end up with foam against foam, or padding against padding, which helped absorb the shock. But it still got sore after a while. And that's the way Seki taught. And he didn't tell us to go out and get padding. We just realized, hey, if we don't wear padding, we're stupid. And you can't.
I do remember wearing my cup all the time, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think and he expected males to wear cups. And I think there were one or two occasions I remember he lined everybody up, and he had a handle in his hand, and he'd whack all the males in the groin, and you knew who was wearing a cup. And that's just the way he was.
Is that
you can't
sorry,
do
just a
that
quick
anymore.
question.
Yes.
Is that not mandatory now for like students? We wear cups.
I would encourage it, but you can't mandate it.
Oh no, well we don't.
But
Yeah, we pretty much say you
it's
have
kind
to.
of like an unwritten.
Part of our equipment.
Seki never said you had to wear a cup,
Okay.
but it was
You realize you have to.
realize hey this is.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the girls class, he had a ladies self-defense was Thursday night, at least when I was studying with him. And because I was a brown belt at the time, I was expected to be the uke for the girls. And he expected the girls to hit us at full power. He wanted the girls to really experience, if you get attacked in the street, you need to know what's going to happen when you hit somebody. And so he would have they weren't allowed to hit us to the face at full power. They had to pull their punches to the face. But anywhere else, in the stomach, the groin, he didn't allow them to kick to the knee at an angle, things like that. But he wanted the girls to learn what it felt like to actually hit a human body. And so I was just, beaten up all Thursday night. I just remember that. And one time a girl was doing a technique and it wasn't working because she wasn't doing it right. I was trying to explain to her how to do it right. And Seki came up and did the technique on me, and I went right down like a rock. And he said to her, if you do it right, it'll work. And then he just walked away.
Yeah, it was how he said, if Seki did what he did today, or said some of the things he said today, he would be sued, he'd be fired. I mean, the whole, but it was, yes, I will agree with Mark, it was a different type of training. And it's hard to do that today. We're quote unquote more civilized. And I mean that kind of facetiously, and I don't think any of us as sensei can teach the way we'd ideally like to teach. And that's the sad part of it, because part of your martial arts training is you want to create as real of an environment for your students as possible, so that if and when they are ever in a street situation, they know what it's going to feel like, or have a good idea. And that's in a street situation, that's tends to be what messes up most people in defending themselves if they don't have a good martial arts experience, is because, oh my God, I got hit hard. That hurts.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for new students today is the concept of punching, because whether you're taking karate, I see it in the karate classes, is, you punch to like within a half an inch of the body. You're not focusing on punching 6 inches through the body. Like Seki used to teach us, you're punching through the body, not at the body. And so if you train like that, where you're not hitting somebody in a real situation until you realize, wait, this is real, I have to punch through the person, you may not get the opportunity to finish the fight because you've trained incorrectly. Or I don't want to use the word incorrectly. You've trained in a controlled environment as opposed to real life situations. And so that's the only comment I have about modern training, is that it's all theoretical, not all, but much of it is theoretical and not pure practice.
Yeah. I think, and I know the way Mark taught, and I did the same thing, we were both teaching together, is we would have the two opponents.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we would have, how do you say it? The opponents would be, and they extend their hand, and we'd have them stop in their ready position, where the fist would stop maybe an inch in front of their face. Okay, that's when they're in their ready position. But the reality was that once they started moving to defend themselves, they would get within the attacker's range of actually making a solid impact, and they would have to block effectively. Otherwise, they would get, and occasionally someone would get hit. And that, like I said, getting hit is a very valuable experience. I think we brought that up last time when we were dealing with the Venn diagram. Once you've been hit, you begin to value the need for effective blocking and body movement, so that you don't get hit or that it's deflected. And when students would stand 4 or 5 feet apart, and like I said, I've seen it in karate, where they're advancing and retreating with all their footwork. um, when you get that close, your blocks have to be effective. Your body movement has to be effective so you don't get hit. It's the hit is not always going to stop a half inch in front of your nose. And that's something hard to get students to realize. And that doesn't mean I'm advocating that every student should get hit in the face at least once, but it's a valuable experience. But anyway, how we divert onto this issue.
I just want to mention that I started Taekwondo in the mid-60s. We had no gloves. And if somebody didn't go home with a bloody nose or busted lip or something, that means they really didn't train that hard. But it's kind of funny because after a while you say, okay, I'm going to class, I expect to get some blood on me someplace. Then when I started taking jujitsu, I forget which instructor, but I think all of us kind of say, okay, take the pain once, but after that, tap out early and tap out often. So when I taught my students, I would say, okay, yeah, feel the pain, feel the arm bar, and just remember it only takes 8 to 12 pounds to break an arm or something like that. But go ahead and tap out often. In later life, about 4 years ago, I started having a lot of health issues. And my opinion now is that, hey, if I get attacked or one of my friends or family, I'm going to take the person out regardless of the legal consequences because I'm too old and feeble and I get too tired too fast to have a prolonged 20-minute TV action type fight. And then somewhere along the line, somebody said to me, before you get in a fight, tell the person you're going to make 2 phone calls, one to the coroner and one to the cops, because somebody's going to get arrested and somebody's going to the morgue. And that diffuses a lot of things. Anyhow, going back to the 60s, when you guys first started taking martial arts, yeah, no gloves. We didn't even have the foam type stuff that they came out with later.
Yeah, we did, like I said, when Mark and I were in it, we did there weren't foam. I think foam type gloves started coming out, but they restricted hand movement and finger movement, and so they were useless.
Yeah.
Because padding is only good if it helps you defend yourself or protect yourself is probably a better term. And anyway, I guess the question is, the question we haven't answered yet, though, is how do we make our students aware that what the techniques they're doing probably will injure their attacker because their attacker doesn't know how to tap out, their attacker doesn't know how to fall, their attacker doesn't know the magic word mate, the attacker. Yeah, we've conditioned our students, if we've done it right, to like Pavlov's dogs, only to respond to certain stimuli. Okay, and also the attacker doesn't know how to. Most of the time, an attacker gets injured because they don't know how to physically respond to the defensive technique that the jujitsu person is using. Or they don't know how to effectively counter that technique. Okay, and many, I won't say most, but many jujitsu techniques can be countered if you know what you're doing and are willing to take the risk. So how do we make our students, I guess I'm not saying that what they're doing is good and they should enjoy injuring another person or something, along that line. But how do we help our students develop that awareness that what they're doing is probably going to cause their attacker to be injured?
That goes back to the earlier discussion of excessive force. is how much force you're going to apply. So depending on the situation, you're going to put the person, you're going to apply a technique that may dislocate his shoulder if he resists, or dislocate the elbow, or break his wrist if he resists. But that's not excessive force. You're simply applying the technique to defend yourself, and the result will be determined by the response of your attacker.
Okay, I mean, I can go with that and say, well, he could have gotten out of it by simply taking a fall, for example, for a wrist lock, but he made a decision to resist, and because he resisted, he broke his wrist.
Mm.
I mean, part of it is perspective, and I'm agreeing with what Marcus say, that injuries do occur out of inability to respond properly.
But I know something I'll say to the younger students that like if you have, let's say you're doing a wrist throw, hand throw, you have to imagine that the person that you're doing it on, if you're doing it in self-defense, they've never done a break fall. They've never done a fall. They don't know how to do a fall. So if you apply it, they don't know to go down like we've been teaching them. So they have to sort of imagine, what do you think is going to happen to the wrist if the person doesn't fall down willingly? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Or go with it. If they don't go with it,
understand.
then what do you think's the damage? The damage is going to be serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe we as sensei, we have a responsibility to do our best to help our students not just learn what the concept, what a technique does, but and not that it's okay to injure another person, but that what has happened is not your fault. You were the one that
Oh,
was
I see.
attacked. You are the one that's the victim.
Yeah, what you've done is right. Like, yeah, you've defended yourself. That's their
Right.
fault for attacking you.
Yeah.
Well,
They shouldn't have attacked you. Yeah.
when I'm teaching the students, I personally do the technique on every single student in a slow motion way, so that they feel what is going to happen and how far the technique needs to go to create the pain level,
Right.
right to the point of damage, and then I stop. But I want them to realize and know, okay, if the person resists me at this point, it's going to break. They need to know that and feel
Yeah.
it, so that they know what's going to happen to their opponent. And I make sure that I always do that when I'm teaching a technique. I demonstrate it on every single student correctly, so that they know exactly what's going to happen.
Okay. And this is why, I mean, I'll do the same thing with my students, is that you need to know, and to practice, initially practice the technique slowly, so that, and you need to have good ukes too. The person the technique is being done on, they need to know physically what the attack will do, how much pain it will cause at certain points, because this gives them control. And they can tell by feel, because the technique's been done on them, tell by feel, they can tell by observation. They have a pretty good idea of what's happening to their uke or attacker before the attacker says ow, or don't, or stop, or please, or finally says mate. They have a pretty good idea of what they're, if they've had the technique done to them, they know they will eventually know what is going on. And that's one of the realities that students need to learn, is if you know how much pain you're causing the other person by observation or by feel, how they're responding to what you're doing, you know at what point things will probably break.
Yeah.
And you need to have good ukes who are willing to take, for lack of a better phrase, a certain amount of discomfort. I mean, if I know with a student, I'll have students I used to have students do techniques on me. And if I knew the hold was set properly, I could tell by feel, not by looking to see if they were doing it right, but I could tell by feel if the hold was set properly. Because you can make a lot of mistakes on jujitsu techniques and they still work. It's just harder to get them to work better. I would say, I'm not into pain anymore. If I knew the hole was set properly and the joint was locked, I would say mate, because they need to recognize at what point, if things go forward, I'm going to be in pain. But all that comes down because, as Marcus said also, you want the student to be in control of the situation as much as possible, because, and going back to the first topic, if they feel they are in control, they can make a bit better decision whether they're going to follow through or not, sometimes. If it's a situation that lasts more than a few seconds. So, because most street situations are where the attack, if you're attacked, I found from my students' experience, most street situations are over in 4 or 5 seconds tops. You're not going to have, as Irving said, I think it was the 20-minute fight scenes in movies. That does not occur in the real world. It's if one attacker really knows what they're doing, as Mark said, and hit to vital areas or do effective joint locks, and the person isn't on drugs or under the influence, it's going to be over in 4 or 5 seconds, one way or the other.
You don't remember Seki saying, if you fought for 10 seconds, it was 7 seconds too long?
Yes.
I have a
In all fairness to Seki, off the mat, the guy had a heart of gold. But on the mat, I think he was back in Japan.
I have another story about like related to this. So my jujitsu sensei is a retired firefighter, and there was one time he told us that a guy that was high on drugs came into the fire station. He wanted to be a fireman. He was jumping on the truck, being a you know what, causing problems and stuff. So the firefighters grabbed him down. There's 3 or 4 of them, he said, trying to hold him on the ground, and he was dislocating. The arm was getting dislocated. They were trying to restrain him and stuff. Nothing was happening. And then my jiu-jitsu sensei, who happened to show up right there, choked him out. And that was it, because he wasn't complying because he was so high on drugs. Nothing was stopping this guy. They had to put him to sleep.
Yeah.
So
that's
they're
that's Gene LaBelle's rule.
but it was quick. But like it was quick. After he knew what to do, it was quick, right? Yeah. So most people, if they're high on whatever, they're not going to feel anything. They got a really high pain tolerance.
Yes.
They'll just keep going. Yeah.
Or they don't feel pain, so it's
They don't feel it until they come down off whatever the crap they're using is.
Oh, you got to be real careful with that because, that's a lot of California cops. Well, I think that's why they restricted the strangles, because when the person's high, they're really susceptible to dying.
Yeah.
So
They're
Yeah, there's a point where rear naked. Yeah, if you get them in a choke and just put them to sleep.
There are generally 2 issues with the chokehold. One issue was that one, they know what the problem is and how to resolve it. Whether it's an effective resolution is another matter. The other one, the first one was a lot of the injuries that were caused in the process of the chokehold was because the upper spine between the shoulders was not being supported as the suspect was brought down to the ground.
Yeah. could see that.
proper support to the neck, there was injury to those vertebrae, which caused
Mm.
other problems.
Yeah.
But in a street situation, it's hard to provide that support to the upper back with your suspect struggling to get out of the hole.
Right.
The other issue is once they applied it, and I don't know if they've discovered the reasoning, but once the person was in a jail cell, even though theoretically there's nothing physically wrong with them, they found that in some cases the person would go into, I guess they call it PTSD, where the body would, and the body would simply shut down, and the person would die. And I don't know if there ever was a solution to that issue. But those were the two basic problems with the chokehold. Not that the guy was being choked out. I mean, I've accidentally choked out students a couple times in class, and that's that's another topic where I can jot down. But you know, the choke out itself is not the problem. It's the process of doing it and the consequences thereof that are the problems. And that's why some law enforcement agencies are very restrictive on its use. And some agencies say you can only do this if it's a life or death situation. And the officer has to prove it was a life or death situation. Because
So,
you know,
oh, go on, sorry.
Yeah, they just sometimes don't have a lot of alternatives. Because
I was about to say,
go ahead.
go on, sorry.
No, go
Well,
ahead.
about the chokes, my sensei told me when he was learning, back when he was a student, they would choke each other out. They would put each other to sleep. And then they'd come back. And he said that was the way they did it. And now we obviously don't do that. But he said no, there's no problem with applying the choke and you go to sleep and you come out of it. You know, the blood choke. You know, he said it just shuts the brain down a second and then you come out of it.
No, I mean,
So that's the way they used to train.
I mean,
There's a problem.
I mean, there's so many ways to go into effective chokes. I mean,
Right.
Even a person wearing a tuxedo, that jacket is such a nice, you know, because we're used to playing. We're used to playing with judo gi. You look at a person, what they're wearing, and you know right away what kind of chokes you can most easily apply most effectively. Chokehold is not my favorite. I actually like to work from the side, and it's a pressure point on the side of the neck that'll put if it's hit fast. It doesn't have to be hard because it's actually a chokehold, but a quick jerk. If you're set up right, we'll put the person out right away. Because I don't want to struggle with a person that leaves marks.
I can tell you that Gene LaBelle put me out in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
it was so quick, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if
and you're fine, right? Like a lot of people think today that if you get choked out, it's dangerous, but it's it's not overly dangerous.
He brought me back immediately. So
right, as long as you don't hold it on too long, but you know, you start.
The problem with chokeholds now is that to do it in terms of CYA, which is, anyone not know what CYA means? Good.
I don't know what that is.
Cover your assets.
What is it? Cover your ass? Sorry?
Cover your assets.
Okay, now I know what you mean. I know what you mean, yeah. Cover your ass, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, polish in my dojo, and it was also a city requirement, was if a person is out, you call paramedics. Doesn't matter whether they're out for just a couple seconds and you've brought them back, or they're out, because once you put a person out, you don't know what's going to happen to their body.
Right, yeah.
Even if the paramedics just come and they check the person out and say, yeah, you're good to go, Do you want to go to the do you want, they recommend you see your doctor and all this other stuff. But it's a matter of, as an instructor in an instructional environment, of CYA, which I don't necessarily agree with. But you also then get into the issue. There are some community agencies such as YMCA's that say, well, if anything happens to a student, you don't do anything except call whomever's in charge of first aid or calling paramedics. And I as a school teacher, we had a policy: if a teacher calls for a paramedic, you call the paramedic. This office will call a paramedic. Fire department was across the street. And we had one administrator that was a real pain on that, and he eventually got transferred to another school because of his attitude. But you do, as an instructor, it's not the same situation as being on the street. And that's the difference. You're in a different environment.
I've got to say something here. When I first started martial arts, we used to choke each other out, and it took some effort. And but I'm at a point right now where you could practically touch my carotid, and I'd start going out. Okay, so over time, I've noticed a change in myself. And if you do go out, you're choked out, I believe brain cells do die, and that's something that would accumulate over time. So putting each other out on a choke, I would discourage. Okay, and of course, and I think that this doesn't apply to anybody here, but if you put a chokehold on somebody and they tap out, you let them go, right? I mean, you don't figure, okay, well, it's not going to do much. They'll go to sleep and wake back up. No, you let that go. And I've come across some instructors that would say, if you put a chokehold on somebody and it's there, let it go. You could get a submission.
That's the way.
Let it go.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove your.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, no longer. We don't do any of that. We just, if it's on, it's on. We know. Right away if it's working.
Okay. I think what time is it now? It's about 9:12. Our next topic is, what part of your art do you teach? And somehow this topic went on a lot longer than I anticipated. We got sidetracked into some other issues, which is perfectly okay, because they are important. And I got some good topics here for future discussions. But if we go to this next topic, we'll only have about 10-15 minutes to discuss it. So I guess the question is, we can either stop now, or we can go into this topic, possibly going over 9:30 a little bit. And then our next meeting, which will be in September, we will be probably dealing most of the time with the issue of escalation or de-escalation and how to do that. I think Ken, is that your baby? Is Ken with us?
Ken, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Yes, guys,
I
I'm
got
here.
video too. Yes.
Yeah.
I got the face. Yeah, I remember faces. Names are hard for me to remember unless I use them a lot. But faces, once I see a face, I've got it.
Yeah.
So that's your baby. So and so we can devote whatever, I think we should be able to deal with escalation and de-escalation, because there are a lot of different approaches to the topic. But I think we could easily fill an hour and a half with that topic. So do we want to go into what part of your art do you teach, or do we want to stop?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, the question is, do we want to get into the next topic, which might take us beyond 9:30?
No. All right, I understand that, but I understand what part of the art do you teach?
Well, do you
Uh,
teach? Okay, do you teach everything you have learned from your sensei, or
oh,
are you being
no,
selective?
I do not. I teach.
Exact. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I've learned that basically I teach by the curriculum, depending on the belt level.
Right.
Higher up, maybe you start teaching them new things, but yeah, basically
I mean,
teaching
'cause
by the syllabus.
I went to a seminar once where I was an instructor, and I thought I'd be teaching knife defenses, and I had, I don't know, what was it, about 8 or 10 Army, so active Army, I don't know whether you call
Yeah,
it platoon plus their sergeant, came into
yeah.
they were the only ones in my group. And I showed them a defensive technique. They said, I thought we were here to learn how to attack with a knife.
Right.
We need to know how to kill people more efficiently.
Yeah. We have yeah,
that
we
was
have
a
that in
real that was a real 180-degree switch from what I had planned. No, I was relatively successful with the topic, because
so
fortunately
we have that kind of situation here where we have the head of our organization, the CJC, he teaches on a military base. He teaches the soldiers. So occasionally those soldiers come up for black belt trainings. So we'll have knife defense techniques and they'll make it clear, okay, you do. Soldiers, you do what you do.
Yeah.
Because they're allowed to go beyond what civilians are allowed to do.
Yeah.
Right?
they,
They're taught to kill, basically.
so
Yeah, it's interesting.
and uh, there are techniques that Hal Brocious taught for rape situations. I think the only time I've taught those have been in women's self-defense classes, and the women are really hesitant when it gets to some of those topics that, for lack of a better phrase, are kind of touchy.
Hmm.
But they're very effective self-defense techniques.
Yeah.
But there are, it's hard at times to gauge what your audience will accept as
Mhm.
reasonable to do on your part, because no one, as simple as, how do you bite a person properly? And that's
With your teeth.
yeah, well, obviously with your teeth, yes. But there's the best example is watch a pit bull.
Yeah.
But no, you know, and then you run into he also taught, well, what do you do if a dog is biting on you like a pit bull? How do you get this dog to let go? And he taught us how to do that. But you don't teach this stuff in
Yeah.
normal self-defense classes.
Mhm.
Because normally you're dealing with people, not dogs.
Well, I mean, what you're getting at is it depends on if you're teaching absolute beginners or if you're working out with trained black belts.
Right.
Because here in Huntsville, I don't teach any basic classes anymore. I only work out with a group of black belts from all disciplines, and we take turns teaching either Wing Chun or Taekwondo or Budoshin Jujitsu or whatever the technique, and we'll work on an attack, and each of us will give the comments of how they were trained to defend. And so we will then work through the scenario, and we just worked on what actually works in the street.
Okay.
So it really depends on your audience and what you're teaching.
Right. So I think what we're going to do here is, just as a keeping within this time frame, because now we have less time. I think we're going to stop at this point, and then next time we're going to go to, just me jotting out, move to, we're going to start out with escalation and de-escalation. We're going to save what part of your art do you teach. Save that, because was if we run out, if we get done with escalation, de-escalation early, we can try to get going into what part of your art do you teach, or we'll save that for the next time in October. And because I'd like to give the topic the time it probably deserves or may need. And anyway, so I did not expect us to spend this much time on how far do you go on the street, but I learned a long time ago, even as a classroom teacher, once you start a discussion, who knows where it will go. And as long as everybody's getting something out of it, that's what counts. And we can always go back and cover what we were supposed to cover later on. The world is not going to end. I want to thank everyone for being here. This is one of our larger turnouts, and I think that's about it. So
Before you sign off,
yes,
how
I
often
have
do we
a
meet?
quick question. Yeah.
go ahead,
How
Irving.
often do you meet?
We meet on the usually meet on the first Saturday of each month.
Okay. I thought we met every other
Saturday.
week.
It was that way, and then we ran into some issues, and some people couldn't do it every other week or first and third week, and so we went down to once a month to be the first Saturday, and
Okay.
so that's where it's at right now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
I may not be here for the next one going forward because that's when we teach our jujitsus on Saturdays. So this could be the last one of the summer for me.
you better be here. No,
I'll be back.
no.
No, I mean, I teach jujitsu on the Saturdays
Okay. Well,
in the
if you-
morning, like
yeah, I can
Saturdays. So
I can understand it, and there were
yeah,
people
so
who let me know
I'll
they
be here in spirit.
they a couple people let me know they couldn't be here this Saturday, and
Yeah.
it does happen, and
Yeah.
in any case,
Yeah.
Another question I
George.
have.
yes.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Any other questions before we depart or concerns?
George, yeah, sorry. So for my part, sorry, I had technical difficulty this morning and my computer was freezing. But anyway, I look forward to our next meeting. But I wanted to share something to think about for our next meeting. In class, I really like to teach be prepared for anything. 2, always try and de-escalate and trust your instincts in terms of how far you go. Trust your instincts. So build good instincts. But a large reason why I like to promote the de-escalation and be careful is I had a great meeting this summer with our federal minister for women and gender equality. Her name is Richie Valdez, who used to practice Filipino Kali. So I'm sending that shirt to the minister. I'm sending her an honorary black belt certificate, and I'm sending her a black belt, beautifully embroidered black belt with Kenru Jujitsu on one tail and her name on the other. But a large reason why I do that is because even here with the city of Abbotsford, I've been talking with our deputy mayor, Patricia Ross, who is a great advocate for women's safety, herself having been assaulted years ago. But anyway, a large reason why I promote the safety first and do no harm and de-escalation is I'm trying to create our self-defense program as a standard of practice. And so is Judo Canada with our women's self-defense program. So that's the reason why I like to promote be prepared for anything. 2, trust your instincts. So build good instincts. And the other part, trust your instincts, be prepared, but always look to de-escalate. Always look to not escalate the situation. So I'm looking forward to talking about that next time when we meet. And
Yeah.
my apologies for being distant. It was the technical failure here on my end. So I listened. I could hear the whole conversation, but I couldn't connect otherwise.
Okay. So yeah, if
What? Sorry.
Hey, Thomas, nice to see you again.
You too, Mark.
yes.
I have a quick question. I forgot the name of that book. It's Flashlight Combat.
So it's the
If you,
book.
Defensive
I'll take a
tactics.
screenshot of it.
Where'd it go?
Sorry.
Defensive tactics.
Yeah, I got
Defensive
tactics.
defensive tactics.
Let me take a
Flashlight.
screenshot there.
Yeah.
Can you hold it up again, please? All right. Oop.
And
Okay. I'll remember the defensive tactics.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look for that one. Sounds good.
Yeah, I didn't see it on Amazon. You might have
Defensive
changed the
tactics.
title
Great,
or
thank you.
something on it.
Yeah, but like I said, the
Oh,
tactics
oh well.
are good,
I'll find it somewhere.
but
Hopefully.
it's the stuff in the back that may CYA if you ever have to use it in a courtroom. And
Yeah, well, hopefully not.
that's the real reason I bought it. I mean, based on what Seki taught, I say you can pick up almost anything and do a lot of the flashlight techniques or handbow techniques or Kubotan techniques or
Ink pen techniques.
empty what?
Ink pen techniques.
Ink
Ink
pen
pen.
techniques.
No pen.
Pen techniques.
Pencil.
Ink pen.
Pencil.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what you can do if like I may have said in a previous conversation, one of my black belts decades ago was going through airport security, and I guess they didn't like his belt buckle, which became you pull the buckle out and it becomes a sort of a knife.
Mm.
And then
Wow.
he says, you should see what I can do with my belt. And they actually wouldn't let him on the flight. He got on their no-fly list. Anyway, so
Pretty good reason, really.
yeah, it is. I mean,
I mean, you shouldn't have. Yeah.
so it's amazing what you can do with a coffee stirrer if you use it right.
It's
With a little
best to be quiet.
Yes, sometimes it's best to keep your mouth shut. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I want everyone to
All
have
right.
a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Mark, now you can go fly your plane.
Mhm.
And we'll see you all. We'll see you all in early September.
All right.
First Saturday in September. Okay, very good, and good to see
Okay.
you, Mark.
Say again.
I said it's good to see you.
Yep. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Okay,
Okay, take care, everyone.
Well, have a good one.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.
bye bye.